students need to be taught all these skills, and there aren't people teaching them these skills.
Right. And especially people teaching them that they can relate to, that's been in the places they've been.
Right.
So, you know, and that, I think that's the key. I mean, I hear more often, and I don't want to sound offensive, but a lot of times teachers that are teaching don't even like the students that they're teaching.
Oh, it happens all the time.
So you have people that are teaching, but yet they don't really care or like the students that they're teaching. So kids feel that. So how can you transfer belief? How can you transfer discipline when the student is feeling this rejection the whole time?
Right.
And so that's our educational system, you know, and obviously, you know, organizations like Breakthrough are changing that. Right?
We're trying to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really interesting that you bring that up because I'm now really intentional in what kinds of examples I use when I'm teaching or in my presentation, because a few years ago I had a student that I had to come down on pretty hard for not doing his homework. And during the summer, students get these infractions for not doing their homework, for having bad behavior, or for making bad decisions, I frame it. And this little boy, at his 4th homework infraction, he had a conference with me. And you know, I came down the way I do on all the students about responsibility and honor and so forth. He didn't talk to me the rest of the day. He's a 7th grader, it's understandable. Comes back the next day, and he's ignoring me. And I'm like, this is a long time to hold a grudge, yeah? So I'm like, maybe, you know, I'll give him a chance. So the whole day goes, same thing. 3rd day he comes back, and I'm still feeling the cold shoulder from him. So I call Mom, and I'm like, hey, so here's what's going on. And she says, you're the first man he's ever had any dialogue with. I said, excuse me? And she goes, yeah. She said, I have no brothers, so he has no uncles. I have no male cousins, Mom is telling me. So he's never had a male teacher, never had a male doctor. We don't go to church, so he doesn't see a pastor. And she said the only men that he's really seen are on TV, or strangers, or guys that want to date me. And he just gets in the way of what the men are at my house for. She said, so you're the first man he's ever had any dialogue with, and when you held him accountable, he didn't know how to respond. So it got me thinking about what's the experience of many students in the schools that I recruit from. And I was thinking, wow, so many boys that have never had any men in their lives. And I noticed that when I'm recruiting, and I'll say things like, for example, you know, it's like, if you want to own your own shop and you have a brake shop or an 8C shop, you know, or when you're a gardener, more male careers, the boys just light right up, like, oh wow, he's talking to me, you know? Right. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, why do you want to go and be a brake technician? And you might have a good job at, you know, or you might be a transmission specialist and be at Midas, and you'll be the best transmission specialist in Sacramento, but you want to own your own business. Where are you going to get the skills to be a business owner? You know, and I could easily say cosmetology or, you know, whatever, but by choosing transmissions or brakes or soccer,
right,
the boys are like, wow, he's talking to me. And it's amazing to think that there's generations of boys that have no men in their lives.
You look at, you know, the Great Society programs and you step back, and you specifically look at Black Americans. Before 1960, you had families together, husbands and wives, children, all in the same house. You have the Great Society programs which said, we will give you a check, and not only that, we will be your father.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And then in order for you to receive this check, you can't have a man in the household. Yes. So in order to get the check, you couldn't have a man in the household. So that was the start. And then you started the breakdown of the family, which is what you see today, which you have second and third generations, that's all they've seen.
Right.
See, back in the, I didn't mean to interrupt, but back in the 70s and 80s, some of those were like first generation where those people are on welfare now.
Right. right.
It was just kind of the difficulty of the time. But now you've seen it generation. The father's been separated. He's seen his father separated. He's seen his father separated. Right?
That's what men do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now this is what they do. In addition to all the difficulties in how society, the social programming through media, how they portray families, how they portray men. So yeah, kids are born up without their fathers. So now, how do you love a child? How do you communicate with a child when you know that there's trauma that they've been through? Basically, kids are experiencing post-traumatic stress syndrome.
From where they're growing up.
So there's there's this relationship, there's an intrinsic knowledge that I think teachers have.
You're missing a good conversation. And I practice an affirmative action for boys because the reality is 6th grade boys can't compete with 6th grade girls because developmentally they're not there yet. So and some of the people who are really like against affirmative action, they don't like me using that word, but it's the truth. It's like boys need affirmative action at that level. Now nationally, 60% of college students are women, and there's a magazine called the Chronicle of Higher Education, and they were predicting, I want to say, if we don't turn the trend of boys not going to college, by like 2060, there will be no boys in college.